All right, guys, just a quick review where we are at the moment. Tonight is not going to be a very long Q&A or anything. We've got Advocate Hendrik van Staden has asked me specifically, because I do such long videos, to slow down and do a quick video. So I'm going to do my absolute best to do that, as Zen has complained as well, and everybody else says I'm too long-winded. Okay, so just a quick brief so that we know what we're going to discuss this evening. I'm going to give our panelists an opportunity to fill in. First of all, on MTI, I want to make it very, very clear that MTI's liquidators have been approved. I'm going to read them out to you. We're still waiting for official confirmations, but the liquidators themselves will know that they've been approved. There's a Mr. J.F.
Sorry. It's not approved, appointed.
Appointed.
Yeah.
Have been appointed, correct. Mr. J.F. Barnard is from Barn Trustees, and Mr. D. Besson is from Tshwana Trustees.
Sorry, that is females, Chris.
Are they both females? Sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, they're both females.
Yeah. Okay, both females. So it's J.F. Barnard and D. Besson, and they are what are called PDIs. We can ask Zen to fill in on us what the role of a PDI is. And then the main people there are Mr. A.W. van Rooyen, who has been appointed as the main liquidator, and Mr. Herman Bester was appointed on requisitions. Mr. A.W. van Rooyen was appointed on value. Those are the present status of the liquidations. Maybe Zen, you could just fill in anything I might have missed on that.
Yeah, that's correct. So like we said in previous meetings, the master will appoint on value and on number. So Mr. Bester has got the number, the amount of requisitions, and Mr. Van Rooyen had the value of the amounts that was put forward by the investors. So that's how the master appoint, and then they usually appoint PDIs. That's a statutory thing that all government institutions have done in South Africa for the previously disadvantaged individuals, people that was left out of the industry in the long run, up to the change of governments and regulations. So that's all everywhere in our country at the moment. So those people have been granted, and females are seen as previously disadvantaged individuals in our country. So that is why the master will always appoint one or two of these PDI appointments in his state, depending on the size of the estate. Sometimes will only be one, and a big estate like this, they will appoint two of them. So that's quite normal.
Okay. All right, and so I think we're at the stage now where the liquidators will somewhere along the line just get back to us. We'll be asking them to sort of give us a formal statement. We know that there have been meetings called by the authorities for all the liquidators to get together on the MTI situation. Those we will report back on those sometime Monday of next week or later, what the status of that is and what has happened in those meetings, if we are allowed to do that. But the authorities have called the interested parties together, probably advocates, solicitors, and various other people, to a meeting on Friday coming to discuss this. So right now, investors, just sit quietly, make sure you're on our email list, and we will get back to you the moment we've got more information on the MTI situation. And I can already feel the question. If you didn't, first of all, if you backed the wrong horse in the race with your vote, you are not out of the system. You are still a creditor, and you will get your opportunity to submit your claim once the liquidators have valued and put their estate together, and they know what the status of that is. And that is more likely is in 2 to 3 months from now, or maybe longer, depending on the speed at which the law courts can get behind this and find all the assets. Am I right?
I don't think it's going to take so long, Chris. What will happen is, I think by tomorrow, the attorneys will already approach the court to extend their powers. And as soon as they extend their powers, these attorneys will be briefed by the liquidators, and also our advocates will be briefed by the liquidators to proceed with 417 and 418 immediately. So these people, the top structures and people with information, will be called to this 417 and 418. They will appear in a magistrate's court where this proceedings will take place, so they will be subpoenaed by these courts. And if they're not going to appear, there will be a warrant for arrest will be issued against them. So it will happen a little bit quicker than that, I think.
Okay. All right. So, but we'll obviously keep everybody informed as it progresses, and so that you know what's going on in the MTI case. But just to repeat that, our liquidators are appointed. There's a team going out there, solicitors and advocates, and they are going to take the rest of the action to get hold of these assets now and get us to a point where we can start seeing when this matter can be resolved completely. Now I want to make a really clear point, and I want everybody just to sit back and think for a minute, okay? The action that was taken this morning in the court with Finalmente is not a provisional liquidation as in the case of MTI. It is a final order of liquidation. I'm going to ask Advocate Hendrik van Staden to come in and just explain the differences there. But I really want people to understand that his arguments for this was exemplary, and it's not normal for the court to actually appoint this. So he really needs to be given a lot of credit for what happened this morning. A massive hand clap for what Advocate Hendrik van Staden and Vaughan Victor achieved this morning in court. So where we are with the Finalmente is, there's no comeback on this. It's over. It's liquidated. Now the actions can go even quicker and they can follow through on what needs to be done. But we need you to vote. So please go to our websites, look at the preferred liquidators. The preferred liquidators we've got on there have all got experience, and they're accredited liquidators with the right experience to be able to take this to finality. So I'm going to hand over to Advocate Hendrik van Staden just to give us an update on that. He's told me he's got to be out of here within the next 6 or 7 minutes. He's got some problems. So I will leave it to him how long he stays, but I do know he needs to move on. So Advocate Hendrik van Staden, would you like to just explain the difference between the two situations, and then just tell us where we are now with Finalmente, and then I'll take it back to Zen after that.
Okay, good evening everyone. Okay, this morning I appeared in the Pretoria High Court for the liquidation application of Finalmente before Judge De Vos. And he said we made out a very good case, and we were able to motivate that it need to be a final liquidation instead of just a provisional liquidation. Now the implication is that, unlike with a provisional liquidation, where there's a return date, with a final liquidation there's not per se such a return date in which the person can pitch up and say, hey, I'm gonna pay everyone, meaning that now immediately the nomination will start again for a liquidator to take charge of the estate. And then also, should the people that's in charge of Finalmente or the directors want to have it turned around, they should bring an application to court to ensure that it is turned around. So unlike now with MTI, where we have to wait till March for a return date, and only then the liquidation is made final, we have shortened the period, if you can call it like that, for Finalmente, meaning that we can take much more immediate action and ensure that we can act much more swift to ensure that the investment by the investors are protected. It is a concern that of the so-called friendly liquidation that was supposed to take place, none of the lawyers of the Finalmente did pitch up at court at all, despite them already knowing that the application for aggressive liquidation will be brought. And also, despite the fact that all the necessary documentation was served on all the role players involved in this specific case.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. I think the 2 points there are, first of all, obviously you were able to make a very strong case, and the fact that nobody from Finalmente turned up to try to protect the situation or change that to a provisional liquidation also speaks realms to the situation at the moment. And I just like you to just confirm that to the listeners so they can understand that these people are also, by doing that, in the wind. Am I correct? Advocate
Yes,
Hendrik?
Chris. Yes, I will agree with you in that regard. Because if you are serious about a company, you make sure that all the governance inside the company is done correctly, and there's communication with all the investors and all the role players within this entity. Unfortunately, we've been seeing now with Finalmente, it's the same with MTI. There's a lot of possible fake news flying around, which cannot be verified, and one hears a lot of rumors. And until someone takes action and it can be verified, we will treat it as such. And that's why I just want to thank you, Chris, that before you publish information, that you make sure that it is verified. Otherwise, one loses credibility.
Okay. All right. And the only reason we haven't been able to actually show the people the documentation, Advocate Hendrik, is because the court at this stage had a COVID scare, if I'm not wrong, and they had to clean out the courts, and they will actually type out the order tomorrow. Is that more or less correct at this stage?
Chris, more or less, there was a COVID case reported at the master's office. So due to that, we were not able to lift the court order from the court document, the court file. So as soon as the cleaning has, the disinfection has taken place at the master's office, then we will be able to uplift the order, and then we will make it available to all the relevant parties as well as to the investors, so that they can see it has been approved, and to just ensure that the liquidators are strengthened in obtaining nominations, and to make sure that we can handle this process efficiently and quickly.
Okay. Advocate Hendrik van Staden, I know you said you need to move on. Do you want to sit until about past, or would you like to leave at this stage?
Okay, Chris, I will be able to sit until past.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm going to ask Zen just to fill us in there briefly if he's got any comments, and then I've got some specific points which he'd like to highlight for us. I think the most important thing I want to say to everybody in the Finalmente global liquidation, we need you to have a good look and to go on our website. We've got a page for you to go to as well. After the video this evening, we will also give you more information and post it out to everybody so that they can go and submit their vote. Look through our liquidators, examine the liquidators that are on our list. Look at other liquidators. You're not prevented from bringing other liquidators and voting for other liquidators. But the liquidators we've got there are people who will get this done. They know the situation. They know how to deal with this type of asset. They have dealt with these type of assets before, and they have been successful in the past. And that's why Advocate Hendrik van Staden and Advocate Victor Vaughan and the rest of the team and the liquidators are being supported by us, is because we know they know, and we also know that they're people of integrity, and there won't be any soft liquidations. Yeah. Zen, would you like to fill in on that and throw any other questions at Advocate van Staden?
Yeah, no, we've been asked a lot of questions today. People are contacting me directly and say, what happens if Kobus comes back on Finalmente? People like Advocate van Staden says, if Kobus miraculously appear tomorrow, you'll have to bring an application in terms of section 354, in which you will ask the court to set the liquidation order aside. The other way, if Kobus miraculously pitch up in a week's time or 2 weeks' time with a lot of Bitcoin, he can bring a compromise to the estate. The liquidators then will, in terms of Article 155, called a compromise, and they will give the investors the chance of proving their claims. So they will set a date in the future that will give the investors to prove their claims. And then in terms of Article, I think 155A, they will have to prove their claims, and then 75% of those investors will have to vote for such a compromise. So the 25 that votes against that compromise, that's proven their claims, will just be bad luck for them. They will then accept this compromise. So that is, if somebody is asking, is Cobus going to come back, or does Cobus come back with a Bitcoin, that will be the procedure. Either 354 application, in which the order is set aside and he pays all the creditors, or a compromise in terms of section 155, in which a compromise will be reached, and then the Bitcoin can be introduced as a payment to the investors. So that's the question that's been asked a lot, and I hope that satisfies the answer.
Yeah, and I just want to, I think that's a good way of looking at it. So there is an option for Cobus to hold up his hand, say, here I am, this is what I've got, guys, let's see if we can get a compromise and get this whole thing settled. That option remains open, okay? And
yeah, you must remember there's no return date here. So in the case of MTI, the attorneys tomorrow have to go to the court to extend their powers. In this case, where Advocate van Staden has already got a final liquidation, the master tomorrow can extend our powers without us going to court. So in the Finalmente case, because of the excellent job that Advocate van Staden has done, we don't have to go to court to extend our powers. It can be done with the master directly tomorrow. So this speeds up the Finalmente case a lot for us, in where MTI, we first have to go to court, get our powers extended, and hope we get all the powers extended that we asked for there. So in Finalmente, it's a little bit different. It's going to go much quicker in this case.
Okay. The other thing too, I think, which is important here, is a lot of people are asking about the criminal case as far as Finalmente is concerned. That, as far as I know, has not been lodged yet by anybody, and we don't have a direction as far as that is concerned. Is that correct? Would Advocate van Staden, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, Chris, that is totally correct. Up till now, there hasn't been any criminal cases lodged that we are aware of, unlike in MTI. So what will happen now is the liquidator will also do an investigation to determine what assets are in MTI, in Finalmente, and he will make a determination to see if there was an irregular business practice or a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme that was in the run, and should there have been any contravention of any laws regulating the servicing of financial services to investors, then the people who contravened that regulations or acts can be held liable, and then it's where the Hawks or SAP will come in, and the necessary criminal charges will be made against those who contravened South African legislation.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think another question which came up today is a lot of people are saying, I know you have already alerted us verbally, at least, that there are 2 other cases that are in the process of being filed, with similar type of cases that are in the process of being put together for filing at this stage. And you very interestingly had a discussion with me earlier to explain to me what the difference is and why this is happening. So can you maybe just allude that, tell the investors what you think the recommendation is as far as these type of schemes are, and what they should be looking at, and what to do now, because a lot of investors might be involved in other similar schemes, and you had a very strong point about how to deal with this. Would you like to just run that through for us quickly, just so that we can tell the people what the situation is?
Yeah, as investors on schemes and on investment schemes and things like MTI and Finalmente, the test to see if this is a scheme or a Ponzi or a pyramid is always the following. There will be good investments and interest paid and commissions paid and everything until there's an intervention, either by authorities like the FSCA or a bad media. then usually it causes the investors to pull out money, or big amounts of money, or all the investors run and draw their money out of these schemes. And that's the test for any Ponzi or pyramid scheme. As soon as that happens, your platform will come with all funny excuses that they can only pay 10% now, or the ITF crashed, or they cannot get to all these payments, and they don't have enough staff, or they will come up with any excuse. As soon as you as an investor want to withdraw your money and you hear these type of comments, you know there is a problem. So a Ponzi or a pyramid scheme can always be tested by intervention, either bad media or authority, and then your investors start pulling money out and the scheme collapses. Then you know there is not efficient money in that scheme to pay all the investors. And that's when you know something went wrong inside there. So I want to urge every single investor tonight is, if you are worried about you have invested in the wrong scheme, or you're worried about a Ponzi or a pyramid scheme, go immediately and draw your money out of the schemes. You can reinvest it in 2 months' time. Don't reinvest it in 1 week or 2 weeks, because they'll just use your new reinvestment to pay the people out that's already asking them for the money as well. So it's no use you take your money out today and in a week's time or 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time you reinvest the money. You are just aiding the fire inside there. So if you are worried tonight that you have invested in some or other scheme that you're not feeling comfortable with, it's withdraw your money. Maybe you're the first one you get your money. Maybe you're lucky you get all your money and all the investors get their money. I hope for that. But that is the test to see if you're involved in a scheme or in a pyramid scheme, or like Advocaat van Staden said, unethical business practice. That is the test at the end of the day, because as soon as all investors start drawing the money, you will quickly see what type of excuses these people come with. And if they start with any excuses, you know it's time to get out of there.
Okay. Okay, so please, everybody, just be extremely careful. If you've got Bitcoin stuck in some scheme somewhere, I think at this stage of the game, with everything that's going on, the best thing you can do is, withdraw it all, preferably if you can. Otherwise, withdraw as much of it as you possibly can. And if you've got some money in a scheme and you think it's good, then just be prepared you're going to lose it, at least for a period of time until it's recovered, if it can be recovered. So don't leave critical money in a scheme you're not sure of. You have to be absolutely sure. And there is no regulating body for these schemes, because they are regarded as assets, and they're only just, Bitcoin is only just becoming a recognized trading commodity. Although the world does trade using Bitcoin, it's not regulated as such yet. It's regulated within the value system, within the internet, but at the end, it's just blockchain and digits that are being valued as having cash value because of their scarcity. Okay, so I think, yes, sorry, go ahead, Henry. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, there's a question that keeps on popping up the whole time that is part of a very important thing now, and that is, how soon will the documentation be available where people can start putting in their claims? And I think it is information that the liquidator will then apply or forward to us, and then it will be posted on the website. Am I correct in that, Chris?
Yes, yeah, we will make sure we do everything in our power to highlight to everybody when that documentation is available, where they can fetch it, or if we can provide it, whatever. But that will be a decision made by the liquidator. So I think if I can just ask Zen to come in there and just tell us what he thinks is the quickest, and what is realistic, and maybe what is the worst sort of scenario. Just a ballpark. We know it's not fixed in stone at the moment, because a lot of administration has to go and happen before that stage is reached. So maybe Zen, if you could just sort of say best case scenario in the world would be 3 weeks or a month, and worst case scenario, middle average would be maybe 2 months or 6 weeks, and maybe longer 3 months maybe sort of worst case scenario, and it could be longer as well. We know that. So if you could just review those figures for us.
Okay, Chris, look, the return date is 1 March. So it doesn't matter. No liquidator is going to send out any claim forms before 1 March until this estate of MTI is finally liquidated. So we know for a fact that before 1 March, we absolutely, as creditors, going to do absolutely nothing now. After 1 March, after the liquidator has given the report to the court and the order is made final, then the liquidators will start compiling a list of creditors. They call it a creditors list. And that is when we will have to post everything for the creditors to get onto that list. Now, the liquidator won't finalize that list until he's sure there's absolutely no creditors still asking to be put on the list. Once he sees it dies down for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, he knows that all interested creditors have lodged their claim or has come onto the creditors list. And then the liquidator will post to all these creditors a warning if there's contribution, if they should claim or not claim. So then they will be up to speed and we will know what's going on in the state. So people, for the claim forms, at least don't worry until the end of March about the claim forms. That's where we first have to put this into final liquidation. That is 1 March, and then we have to come up with the creditors list, and we still have to circulate a lot of things before we start processing claim forms.
Okay, there's one elephant question in the room, and I think I should pose that to Advocate Hendrik van Staden. Is there a possibility that there could be an application for that date of 1 March to be brought forward and just declared a liquid, final, that it is a liquidated, that the MTI is a liquidated estate? Hendrik, would you like to answer that?
There's a specific reason why a return date is given for a provisional liquidation. It is also to protect the company itself. Should something have happened and they were just not able to repay creditors or ensure that they were able to execute functions that they were supposed to execute. So, because it's already made the order of court, I don't foresee any reason why the date will be brought forward, as it will not be in the best interest of either the company itself or possible affected individuals. Zen, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I cannot see this being set aside another time. There's no grounds for it. So I think on 1 March, the return date will be made a final winding up order.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Sorry, yes.
And then, Chris, there's another question that is a bit confusing for the Finalmente members, and that is how long do they have to nominate for their liquidators now? I guess it's also another 48 hours in the same process we had with MTI. If you can just bring clarity on that as well for the Finalmente members.
Yeah, I think it will depend on when the papers are issued, and I think that Advocate Hendrik van Staden or Zen are probably the best people to answer that accurately for us.
Okay. Chris, firstly, we'll have to wait for the court order to be issued, because that is the order of court and that's the one that one can use. So people can start filling in nominations already. However, it's important that we get a court order as well. And then it will usually take about 48 hours, depending on variables, as I will just ask them to expand on that as well. And then from there, the Master of the High Court will then make a decision based on the nominations received. Zen, if you can just elaborate on that also.
Yeah, look, what is holding us back at the moment is actually the attorney's insurance wasn't lifted at the master today because of the fumigation at the master's office. So because the attorney's insurance hasn't been lifted up there, it has to go down to the court for the court to issue the court order to go up to the master. And that usually then takes 48 hours to make the appointment. Chris, to answer your question there, I think we shouldn't put a time limit on the requisition to fill in. Keep on going, people. We'll come on a webinar again and tell you it's over now. The master's not accepting any more nominations. Until then, everybody's vote counts. Throw your vote. We will tell you when it's not you to do it anymore. We'll give you a time span there, but it's very difficult to tell you it will happen that day and that day. Look what happened to MTI. We waited 16 days before the appointment was made, although they closed the nominations last week on Monday at 10 o'clock. So that was issued the day of the master telling us we're closing it now. So the master have not, in the case of Finalmente, said to us when they're going to close the nominations. So this is a guessing game now. So I would say let all the investors keep on pushing the nominations until we tell them otherwise to stop pushing nominations. That's my advice.
Okay. Yeah, and we will undertake tomorrow to make sure that everybody knows how to fill in those nominations. And if some people feel that they might have filled in their nominations incorrectly, they'll just need to attach a letter and resubmit the nomination, saying, look, I submitted my nomination, but I didn't understand this quite correctly. We will make absolutely sure tomorrow everybody knows exactly how to fill in those nominations so that we can get the nominations out there. Because in the MTI situation, we reported yesterday that about 35% of the nominations couldn't be counted because they'd been filled in incorrectly. So please make sure you know exactly how that should be filled in before you send it in. Guys, unless Henry, you have any other questions, or William or anybody else has any specific comments they'd like to make, I'd like to wrap this up now. I'm doing my best. We're only 3 minutes over. This is getting good.
Nothing from my side. Thanks, Chris. Well done.
Okay, Henry?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I think the thing that just needs to be repeated is what we said. Go back to the website, guys. Keep on looking at the Telegram groups. We will not keep you in the dark. The process, the documents, and the dates will all be posted on the website, Telegram, and the WhatsApp groups. Just keep in tune and let your people tune in on the website. That's all. Thank you very much, guys, for your...
Yeah, and I also want to say, every time somebody tells us that they found Johan or they found Quibus or this or that, we do check it. And if it's not true, we don't post it. But we just leave it. But we've had Johan found, I think, about 4 times in the last 2 days, and nobody seems to know where he was found. But anyway, it's good thinking. Guys, keep out there, keep strong. And we've got a good team going after your assets at the moment. I really want to applaud the people who are working on this. Thank you so much. Hendrik, you and Vaughan and Zen, you're giving us your time this evening. Thank you so much for doing that. I think the investors don't appreciate how hard you people are working behind the scenes, but thank you for that. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Chris. Yeah, bye.
Bye.